I tried to be very high level because I can go into endless detail about all kinds of complications and successes. But one thing that we learned is that small is beautiful. The original 15 was actually a very good number, and we should have just probably stayed there because you can go much deeper with fewer students. That would allow me to be much, much, much more selective. Not to say that the students that we don't have are sharp, or the students we have aren't sharp, but we could have been even more selective. Does that make sense? And really model and go maybe a little further, right? So small is beautiful. That's not to say that we didn't have the capacity to handle. We had 3 instructors, 25 students, right? That's a pretty good ratio. Going deep versus going broad, right? Spending a lot of time so you really know HTML and why you name a file index on HTML. So you know why you're like, you know, your repository isn't live online. Well, you don't have an index on HTML, right? The web does not know where to start, right? And this came up this morning. He's like, oh my God, he has like this whole site. It's not working. I'm like, but it starts with an I. It's like, oh, index. God, I'm like, why do we do that class? Because that's the first. You know, I mean, it's just, so we could go a little deeper and not try to go so fast, right? We jumped into JavaScript and had to jump right back out. Right? Because it's not, you know, it's not HTML, right? It's a whole new way of thinking. And I'm like, wow, we have 3 weeks left, and we're going to create a button that shows something on the screen when you click it, and like keep it at that. You know, and let's teach enough JavaScript so the students can do a carousel for Bootstrap and know what it's doing, right? So they can call that function and actually know what they're doing there. So we did enough just so they can have a carousel. So you'll see some carousels in the slides I show you, right? Building in time to debug bad learning habits that have been acquired over the last, upwards to 10 years in this education system, right? I mean, that's to put it politely, right? Just debugging this idea that there is wisdom in the classroom beyond the instructor, right? There are ways that you can jump ahead of the instructor. You don't have to wait. There's always something to do, always something to learn, right? How do you debug these bad learning habits? One thing I learned is not just to say, y'all should go do more. Go to W3 schools and find something else to do, right? No, we need guided, like, extra activities, right? All kinds of over-planning, right, that I was not prepared to do, right? So that's one way that we can begin to debug these learning habits, right? How to do that self-exploration and self-discovery, right? Teamwork truly does make the dream work. So on the one hand, you know, we probably didn't have enough to really have the students even be incentivized to jump out and just to explore. Many students did, right? But it wasn't, I don't think, a common practice, right? But as far as the teams working together and solving each other's problems, right? There's a young man named Kai Massey who I started noticing as the students were working on their final sites, the design was very consistent. Everybody that he helps forks his repository and it customize what's going on, right? But the thing is, that's the point, right? Now they don't all look the same, but there are some consistent features. And it's just different enough. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. All right, Kai got his own little Bootstrap going, right? He has like a whole thing. You see him running around. I'm like, okay, this is neat. I'm not sure if he's promoting it or what, but he's doing amazing work, right? He was a guy who, like, if we could stay on JavaScript, he was the one that we would have stayed for because he was all over it. He would call his team members at home. Hey, what did he say about the? They're like, why are you calling us at 9 o'clock? But he would go home and do this stuff. Right? Matter of fact, I asked him to change something, and he changed it. I was going to show you his crazy background, but anyway. Focus on concrete projects and deliverables. One thing we did well was focus on concrete projects and deliverables. Every day, teams and team leaders were held accountable to a deliverable, right? And so midweek or midway through the project, week 5, they had to complete an entire website, right? But each day of that project, there was a deliverable. First day, wireframes, drawing pictures of your site. So you have these people over here like with boxes, and they have like the IMG. It's really cool to see teams doing that, right? Like drawing out the site they want to build first. Making it real. One thing that we did not do, and this is just my own bad habit, just like work, right? We could have paused and taken a field trip, right? And met some real life web developers, right? Maybe scheduled more guest speakers. You know, we had this very accelerated, ambitious timeline that had no room, right? And we were behind it, and I was like, we don't have time to even have a guest speaker, right? So making it real for our fall cycle, we are going to schedule more field trips to expose the students to the people and places of this world, not just the code, right? It's not real until you have a story that you can connect with. Living in the cloud, right? So GitHub was amazing because I could see every student's code, and we could change labs, if we had to, and still be able to work, right? So everything's in the cloud. We can go anywhere and do anything, right? At the same time, we need dedicated space. Ideally, it's not set up as a classroom where I'm over here talking about all eyes up here, right? The teams can be on their little bean bags and stuff, and there's like projectors projecting to like all four corners. So there's no idea of a central, right, authority knowledge figure, right? It's about the group coming together and finding a solution, right? So that's it. And so what's next is excuse me. Oh, sorry. We are doing a fall 2013 cycle, a continuation of the summer. So we're going to dive deeper into JavaScript and deeper into the Raspberry Pi. The goal this summer was to use the Pi to be a server to host their site.